Welcome to episode 4 of the Book Writing Journal. I was checking my recordings last night and I noticed it's been such a long time. In fact, it's been more than a month since my update. And I had intended to do these a little bit more frequently, but I admit, been resisting. I've been resisting doing this update. Not because anything bad's been happening, nothing like that. It's just that I've been really busy, not an excuse. I have been really busy. And I've also been in a really kind of messy place with the book. So things that I'd like to talk about with you today or share with you today are the process of being in the messy middle and my resistance as I go through the book writing process, the emotional side of it. So the nightmares that I've been having as I go through this book writing process, and a little bit more about the emotional process of writing this book. And I also want to share with you the next steps. So let's go back to the first thing, the resistance and what we call the messy middle. So Patty, who is such an awesome and incredible support for the program that I'm part of, shares with us that although we start out with a fairly clear idea of what it is that we'd like to write, and I did have that when I started, we end up in this place of what she calls floundering. And I have to say, I thought I'd be different. I thought I had this really clear idea of what I wanted to write. I had this really clear idea of, I could see the book in my own head. And people had shared with me what they wanted me to write about and to share about. So I'd gone headlong into this thinking, oh yeah, I could do that. And then I've been floundering, really floundering. And it's been really uncomfortable to sit in this place of not knowing because my left brain has been going absolutely bonkers and wanting to put out a table of contents and wanting to put out, a clear, what we call narrative arc, because I've been kind of researching all these things. And because I don't have any of that to latch onto, I'm having to sit in this place of discomfort. So on the one hand, I have over 100,000 words of content sitting in my files, and I've continued to write content and explore content. But at the same time, I feel like I've just kind of scratched the surface because it feels like it's this much of all of this that I have that I want to share. And I have to resist creating more content. And that feels uncomfortable because in the resistance of doing that, I'm having to sit with what I've got. I'm having to realize that all of those pieces feel like they've been thrown up into the air and I don't know where it all fits anymore. In fact, one of the things I've noticed about the whole book writing process as I go through it is just how deep, reflective, and I'm going to say almost invasive it has been for me to go back over old territory, to relive stuff. I call it stuff for now. So to relive things. But at the same time, it feels like it's been erased in some sense, like it just doesn't make sense anymore, or I'm looking at it as an observer rather than through the lived experience of it. And it's almost as if it doesn't belong to me anymore, as if by writing it down on the page and putting it into what will eventually be book format, it belongs to somebody else. And that kind of feels really weird. So the way I described it to Patty last night before I went to bed was that it feels like I'm woken up in the matrix. I know that I'm in the matrix and I just don't know what to change to get out. So this leads me on to the second thing about this emotional process. And this whole thing, this whole writing thing, writing about yourself, I feel the self-loathing in it at times. It's like, so bored with my own story. And there's this other place of just being uncomfortable and really having to feel into that discomfort. And the way that this is showing up for me is in the nightmares that I've been having. So last night I woke up twice, and each time I had just avoided being killed by somebody. So I'm being chased and, some guy's trying to mow me down or do terrible things. And I wake up and I go back to sleep and it happens again. So this morning I looked up what this means. And essentially the message that I'm getting from this dream is that I need to face my fears in my waking life. And when I think about that, what am I afraid of around this book? I'm afraid that it won't be perfect. So I have to face my fear of imperfection. I'm afraid that it won't be right. So it goes along with perfect. I'm afraid that the writing won't be good enough. And I think that's a natural fear for anybody who does writing. And despite what everybody tells me that my writing is good enough, there's still that internal fear. And I think there's another fear around being vulnerable in the content that I'm putting together, because some of what I'm sharing feels really vulnerable, because it also is exposing to me that who I thought I was is not who I am. And I'm having to sit with that, because although I might know it intellectually, I'm actually having to feel it. And that's an uncomfortable place to be. So part of this, this exploration of the book is really exposing the place that I'm at or have been in terms of not really being connected to who I truly am, but more connected to who I thought I was. And I'm starting to see a split. And I'm starting to see, as I look at the sections as they come together, that what I've written, I can see the patterns in my life. I can see how those patterns have shown up, but I can also see how I'm wanting to move away from those patterns and create new ones. So that's where the split comes. So I'm really, really conscious of that. So that's what I mean by waking up in the matrix, is that I know that I've been in that place. And I know that I've been recreating and reprojecting out these life lessons over and over again in just different experiences or different things that I've been doing. And now I have this really deep inner desire, this really visceral feeling that I would like to change that. I'd like to change the patterns, and I have all the tools, because it's not as if I haven't been doing this over the years. I have been, but now I have this really clear sense that this, not that, or not this, but that. And this is all coming out through the writing. So it's going to be an interesting exploration to go through this as we go through the rewriting. And this brings me to the next step. So what am I working on right now? What Patty and I are pulling together are sections for the book proposal. So this includes having a master table of contents. And I said earlier on, that I've been avoiding this as much as possible, but we need to get to that. So I've sent across to Patty, a planner for a lot of the things that I had intended to write, but I haven't written yet, along with all of the things that I have. And I have a kind of overview of what's in there. I have a list of key themes that I can slice and dice. So it's very easy for us to find content or to even start to write content that hasn't been written yet. I'm also starting to pull together an overview for the book. And part of that overview includes all the things that I thought that I wasn't, but that I am. And we're also starting to build chapters for the book proposal, which are different, slightly different to the chapters that you end up with in the book. And so part of this process is then taking some of these chunks that I've written and pulling them together and saying, okay, so let's build the arc of the story around this theme based on the content that's already there. Now, I'm used to doing this in a business sense. I've been doing this for 20 years. So, when Patty and I were in a call, I'm like, oh, that sounds easy. Let me go and do that. I put it all together. And then I'm sitting there thinking, I don't want to do this, because it means that some of this content is going to end up on the cutting room floor. And also I'm facing sections of 20,000 words and going, how do I bring that down to something that's a little bit more manageable? So this has all been part of this process of working out where am I at, what am I doing, and what comes next. So yeah, this is where I'm at. I'm in this kind of really messy place right now. But what I'm committing to do is to not leave it so long before my next update. I'm just going to press pause on this video for a second, and I'm going to find something that I can share with you about where this is going. Okay, I'm back. So what I wanted to find was something that I could share with you about this idea of, discovering who I am based on who I'm not, or who I thought I was. So what I've written here is, it has taken me a long time to reconcile who I thought I was and who I am. And I still haven't worked this out. There's no clear answers. This is it's an unfolding day-to-day process, because to be able to say that I'm really clear on this right now would be a lie. So even now, I sometimes sit and I wonder how can I draw any conclusions about who I am and who I'm not, since I'm pushing my edges out further and further each and every day. The process of discovery is never ending. What I've discovered through writing sections of this book and reflecting on the patterns that have arisen is that what I thought I was are these things: the good boy, the one who had to follow all of the rules, the clean-cut guy, the conservative, the nice guy, the rule follower, the moralizer, the judge and the jury, mostly of myself, the self-flagellator, the risk avoider, the perfectionist, the unlovable one and the unloved one, the wounded healer, the carer, the son, the brother, the apologist, the deaf kid, the do-gooder, the organized one, weak, agnostic, the straight A student, the weirdo, the victim, poor, prudish, and the list could go on forever and ever. But what I've discovered and what I know to be true about who I really am, first and foremost, I am loved and I am lovable. I'm the rebel, the rule breaker, the nonconformist. I'm a bit of a lefty as well. I'm pretty progressive. I'm chaotic and I'm organized. So although that's a paradox, I can be both and I am both, sometimes at the same time. I'm productive. I'm the coach. I'm also a pioneer in doing a lot of things that people I know have never done before. I'm the explorer and the adventurer. I'm a complete risk taker as well, and a bit of an adrenaline junkie, and have been in my work, even if I never really understood it at the time. I'm pretty fearless, and I'm quite comfortable facing my fears once I get over the initial shock of it. I'm not as deaf as I thought I was, as the tests keep showing me. I'm someone who can achieve anything that I put my mind to, and I keep proving that to myself over and over again. I'm resilient, I'm deeply spiritual, I'm willing to fail. Some people call me a shaman. I don't take the title, but some people call me that. I can still be the persecutor of my own self. I can be the guilt-ridden giver, in that I give because I feel guilty. I'm also abundant, and I see that abundance in my life wherever I look. And I like to explore, and I'm a nomad. So as much as I sometimes crave settling, I also crave exploration, and I crave that freedom of exploration. And so as you hear that list, I'm sure that you'd be able to create your own list of things that you thought you were versus the things that you've discovered you truly are. And I'm pretty sure as well that, like me, you'll find that that list changes, that the process of self-discovery is never ending. And that although I'm writing a memoir, this memoir is really a snapshot of a period of my life, which was completely transformational. And what I know when I finish this book is that a new book begins. A new life begins, in a sense, because as I go through this process and I feel that I'm able to look at what I've written, or I'm able to look at my life with some distance, I'm able to also let it go. So I wanted to leave you with that. I'd love your reflections, comments, messages, support. And the last thing is I need to start marketing. So if any of you know any really super uber cool people who are able to help me with a book website, social media engagement, I would love to hear from you. Shout out in the chat, send me your questions, and let's reflect again soon. Take care.